Welcome, everyone, to our Astronomy Days 2022. We are so excited you're here with us today. My name's Carrie. I'm an educator at the museum, and we are really excited about our program this afternoon. So to get us started with our icebreaker question, please tell us what your favorite constellation is. So go ahead and put that in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick Zoom tutorial. Make sure we're all getting a good view. So this program is live captioned. If you'd like to use the captions, click at the bottom where it says closed caption and hit show subtitle. And then the subtitles are going to look like this. And they'll show up at the bottom of the screen. Now, for everybody, if the picture of the speaker, like me, is overlaid on your slide, you want to go up to viewing options and click side-by-side mode. That takes my picture and puts it over to the side, so the slide is not obscured. And then you can also make me bigger or the screen bigger as you prefer by sliding this bar over on the side. Lastly, please talk to us in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want your questions. We want your comments. But please be kind and respectful to each other and the speaker. And also make sure that you keep your comments relevant to the topic at hand. And overall, just be a good digital citizen. So with that, we're going to take a look at some of our favorite we have so many wonderful constellations. Orion is showing up a lot. Big Dipper, Gemini, that's a fun one. Scorpius, Cygnus the Swan. My favorite is Monoceros. Does anybody know what Monoceros is? It is the unicorn. Oh, and we have someone who picked Andromeda. I also like Cassiopeia because I can find that one in the sky. So, all right. So with that, let me introduce our speaker. So Sarah Taylor is one of our NASA JPL Solar System Ambassadors. So she is going to be telling us all about how to enjoy the night sky from your backyard. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me. All right, so I will take it away.
Yeah, take it away.
All right. So like she said, my name is Sarah Taylor. I'm a NASA JPL Solar System Ambassador, and we'll talk more about what that is later. But this is basically just a talk about what kind of things you can experience space without having to leave your backyard. The first one I want to talk about is exploring NASA from home. And this picture, if anyone's wondering, this is some people in Japan watching the Apollo landing from the comfort of their house on their black and white TV. Which you can watch NASA at your house now. So one of the really cool things that NASA has is called NASA TV. So if you go to NASA's homepage, it's always on the homepage. It is in the bar at the top. I put the little box around it so you can see. And NASA TV basically shows launches, landings, science briefings, and press conferences live online. And if there isn't an event being currently broadcast, the feed will show NASA films and science documentaries they've created, and then occasionally footage from previous launches and landings. So there's always something on to watch if there's nothing live. And when you go to NASA TV's website or on the homepage of NASA, they will always be showing what is live on NASA TV. So you can go and see what you want to watch. I think there's some press conferences this week is what's coming up imminently. And then another fun thing you can do at your house, since you're at the house, you can have whatever snacks you want. And one of the traditions at NASA is eating peanuts. When you're in mission control, because you need something to do so you're not freaking out about whether the thing is going to go correctly. And so you've seen that little picture. There's the people passing the jar of peanuts. And one thing I found out, which I didn't know actually, was they make custom labels for the peanut jars that sit in mission control for every mission that they have them on. And so that is the jar for the InSight lander.
Which is so fun. So now everybody, we have a talk on InSight later in the week. So get your peanuts so you can watch the InSight talk.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool that like they do that. And when because of COVID, they're trying not share food right now. So what they've been doing is they've been doing individual packaged peanuts with like a sticky label on each one. So they've been having a lot of fun with it. And so that's really neat to like, you have your peanuts. So whenever you watch something, you should have your peanuts. Another way you can connect with NASA is their virtual guest program. So what NASA is doing because of COVID, there's really not many opportunities to go see a launch or a landing of something in person. And so what they have done is they've created this virtual guest program where you sign up online and you will receive email updates about the mission as well as resources and information. There is a virtual guest passport. That's the picture of the cover is up in the corner of the screen. And you can print that out, fold it up. There are instructions on the page as to how you fold it. And then after you attend a virtual event, which they are like live streamed online, you get sent a printable stamp that you can then cut out and paste into your little booklet. And this is open to if you are a teacher or you think maybe your child's class might want to do this. You can do this sign up as an entire class to participate in this. And some missions, which we'll talk about in a minute, do have an additional educator only component where they will give you additional education resources specifically for that mission. And so the big mission that's coming up in the near future is the first Artemis mission. So Artemis 1 is going to be the kickoff of NASA's return to the moon. And future missions beyond Artemis 1, because Artemis 1 is uncrewed, so there will be no people on it. Future missions will see the first woman and the first person of color land on the surface of the moon. So because this mission is so special, they are making some unique virtual guest opportunities for this mission. They have a specific virtual guest passport just for the Artemis missions. So it's like the other passport, but it's specific for Artemis. So you can put all your Artemis stamps in this one specific one. And so you can simply virtually participate and say, I want to, virtually watch the landing, or you have the ability with this one to host an event, a watch party. And these can either be public or private. And the private event, it could just be your family if you want to sign up and say you're going to watch party with just your family. But the public events, if you are a school, somewhere like that wants to host something open to the public, you can register on NASA's Eventbrite website for this. And as I said, these can be virtual events if you don't want to do something in person. And then a special thing they're doing also for Artemis is they have added a thing called the STEM pathway. So what that's going to be is, in addition to your virtual launch experience registration, you can add on this thing called a STEM pathway. And what that's going to do is they are going to send curated educational content to you every week in the lead up to the launch. The launch date isn't set currently as a firm date. It's going to be into early spring. As you see, the registration closes March 31st for participating in this. But once you sign up, they will send you, that's part of the updates. They'll send you updates as to when the launch is going to be, if there's any delays or changes. If people have been following the mission, they did have a delay recently where they were having problems with one of the computer systems that runs one of the rocket boosters, but they got that fixed and it's now back on track. So, but that's one of the things you'd get emails about, they'll tell you about the launch and how it's going. So another really cool thing that NASA's made to kind of in this virtual environment is they've made a lot of virtual tours of their facilities. They could be accessed via a computer or a smartphone. I've done the JPL virtual tour. It's actually really cool. They did a really good job, like with the video filming and looking at all the different things in the facility, in the museum. You actually get to see a lot of things on that tour that the normal public doesn't get to see on tours because it's places where like the public cannot go. But because NASA filmed it, they went and to all these behind the scenes places and made these videos for this tour. Some of the tours that are available have virtual reality content. So if you have some sort of device that can do like a VR headset, you can watch these tours because they have like 360-degree views. There's 360-degree views of some spacecraft you can look at, which is really cool. That's a neat, like fun extra thing, especially if you have one of those devices. And then there's also some really fun like virtual apps that are augmented reality apps. So as you see in the pictures on the bottom, this is the Explorer 1 model of a rocket. And that's one of the spacecraft in their AR app. And so these people in NASA Education Department recreated that famous photo on the left from the original mission with the AR model. And then one of the other really fun ones, which I don't have a picture of, is there is a virtual like spacesuit selfie camera that you can take pictures of yourself where it puts a spacesuit over you. And then you can change the background to be famous like NASA photos. So that's really fun. And of course, all these apps are free to download. There's no cost to them. Now to some more kind of fun NASA things. This is good, particularly if you are someone who's watching who are kids or if you are someone who has kids. NASA Space Place is one of my favorite places for resources and like content. There's games, there's simple activities, and then one of the really nice things I like also about Space Place is there's the age-appropriate science articles and videos for grades K through 5. So this is a great, if you have your, book report about Jupiter or something, this is a really good place to go look and find articles, information that's both accurate, but also at a grade level that like your student can read. And then some materials are available in both English and Spanish. So that is a really good bonus. And you can switch the site. If you see in the upper corner of the screen, I screenshotted what the top of the website looks like. If you click on the En Español, it will switch the website to Spanish and will show you all the Spanish language content. And some of the fun activities that there's one of the new activities they have on there is making this space slime, galaxy slime. It looks quite entertaining with the glitter. And then other really fun thing that Space Place is doing is every month they have a space art challenge. So they have a monthly prompt, and then once you receive the prompt, you can create a piece of artwork and then submit it to them, and they will pick their favorites to feature on the website, which is really cool. There's some really neat artwork that people have made based on their themes. And it's, it's not quite the end of January yet. You probably still have time. You could make something for January. Another really good kid-friendly resource NASA has is NASA Kids Club, which NASA Kids Club has. It's mainly games and interactives for children. It's more for young children, but don't think that it's not educational, because it is, at least kind of secretly. You're meant to have fun while you're playing, and then you don't realize you're learning things. And there is an educator and parent guide included on the website where you can see what each activity teaches and what grade levels it's appropriate for. And one of my favorite things on there is this one, which is the Astromatic 3000, which calculates your age and weight on other planets. And if you've been to an in-person astronomy days before, they usually have this as an activity where they'll print it out for you. But now you can do this virtually. So, and I think that one's pretty fun because it does that one. It's you can it's animated, so you can go from planet to planet, and it's really fun to watch. And I think it plays music also.
is funny. We have age, weight, and jumping on other planets. So a few years ago, we added the jumping. So that's fun too. Like how high could you jump if on the different planets?
It's a good addition. I wish this one had that, but yeah, this one is, it's nice to have this as a digital version. And then if your family's interested in citizen science, which is where you as just a, random person can contribute to scientific research from the comfort of your own house. One of the programs you can participate in is called GLOBE. So GLOBE is a project, it's partially sponsored by NASA. And what you do is people all over the world participate in data collection and observations. And then what they do with this data collection is they can use it for either future research projects or to actually validate satellite data. So that's one of the ones that I have the picture of there. It's called CloudSat. And so what you do is it tells you on the app, so you download an app, it tells you when to go outside because the satellite is passing overhead. And you take some observations like how cloudy it is, like how much sun you can see, what temperature it is, things like that. And then what they do is because they know when the satellite passed over where you are, they take that data and compare the two. And it makes the satellite, the algorithms that the satellite uses to detect cloud cover, it makes them better. Because if the satellite looks at your area and says, I think it's cloudy, and you say, no, it's not, then that's bad data that scientists are getting if they think the satellite is telling something that isn't actually happening. And so you can help make satellites better. And that's stuff that those things help with like weather prediction and things like that. And the better those are, the safer everyone is. So those things are really important, actually. And then another really fun thing NASA has, which is some of them you can see behind me, is NASA has printable posters. They have tons of posters. These ones on your screen right now are mainly from their exoplanet series. And then there's some that are from our solar system also. A lot of them, they tried to base it off of like vintage, like travel posters and things like that. The one in the upper right-hand corner, the Kepler 16b, that's one of my favorites because that planet has two suns like Tatooine does in Star Wars. But the one thing that they don't show you in Star Wars is if you were on a planet that had two suns, you would have two shadows. But that poster does show that you'd have two shadows. And so a lot of things, they also have posters for various missions. The poster I have over here that says Gateway, that is part of the series of posters for the Artemis mission. That is part of like their 3-step plan they're doing where it's going to be Moon and then Gateway and then go to Mars, where it would be like an orbiting station. And so that's one of like their rendering posters for that. So it's cool. And also printing them is not as hard as you might think. Most like print shops can manage posters like this. You just bring the file to them, and it usually costs me about $1.50, couple dollars to print it. So it's a good, cheap way to get some artwork, and it's a good way to brighten up your Zoom background. And so we'll break here for a second. I don't know if are there any questions, Carrie?
Yeah, so far, Skelly says he would weigh 12 pounds on Pluto. But yeah, so folks, if you have questions for Sarah, just put them in the chat. But yeah, I do want to comment those posters. Rachel Smith, one of the museum's astronomers, gave a presentation yesterday. And she was talking about one of the exoplanets that's like a lava planet. It has in the sky sparkles. And so, and one of those posters features that exoplanet. So as it's been coming up, I've been sharing that link in the chat.
Yeah.
So folks can check it out because those posters are just fantastic.
Yeah. One of my other favorite exoplanet ones, which I don't have up, but one of my favorites is the one for the TRAPPIST system, where it's all the planets are really close together. Because, theoretically, if you were able to go to one of those planets and be on the surface, you'd be able to see all the other ones in the sky like we see our moon. So cool. It'd be like having like 6 other moons in the sky. And so the poster they made for that is really cool. It's like some people, like they're in a train, like looking up at the sky, and it has all the like other planets in the sky, which is really cool. I really like that one.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish we could see it, not just the artist's conception. All right.
Well, like I said, if you have any questions, just drop in the chat and Carrie will get them to me as I keep going. All right. So we're going to start kind of the backyard astronomy portion. So that was kind of all the NASA online resources, which that's not the end of them. There's more in this part, but that's kind of more the like things to do online. So the first thing we'll talk about is just kind of highlights of stargazing for this year. So one of the things NASA publishes is they publish a monthly series called What's Up? And it highlights the best or the most interesting things to see in the sky every month. They update the website every month, but there also is a monthly video. So you can go look right now. There's the one up that is January 2022. You can go up and look and see what there is to look at this month. And the homepage for the What's Up series also has some like at-home tips and kind of, questions, answer, Q&A kind of stuff. There's some printables. One of the really cool printables they have right now is they have a 2022 moon calendar. So you can print that out and set it to a date and a time or a day, and it'll tell you what the moon phase is going to be. So you can go figure out what's going to be on your birthday, something like that, find out what's going to be on Christmas. And then they do also show a day-to-day sky watching calendar on the homepage every day. So you can see what's happening. I just looked today. There's nothing really of interest, like astronomically to look at, but they have the moon phase up for what today is. So that's nice to see. But one of the big highlights, we're going to kind of keep on the moon theme, is there is going to be a lunar eclipse this May that is going to be visible in the entire state of North Carolina. So that is going to be really cool. There's actually going to be 2 lunar eclipses this year. The second one is going to be in November, but we aren't going to be able to see the full eclipse happen. This one we will be able to see the entire eclipse occur because the moon is going to be up by the time it starts. So like I said, it starts the evening of May 15th and it will go into the early hours of May the 16th. So that should be pretty exciting. I am excited. I am glad it's the summer and it's not going to be cold because I do not want to go out when it's like 16 degrees and look at the moon. Another thing on the moon observing is there is an event every year called International Observe the Moon Night. And they hold it on a different date every year. It's between September and October. They try to sync it so it's during the full moon. So you have the best observation of the moon. And it's something you could just do in your own backyard, or you can attend a public event for it. So this year's is going to be on October 1st. And because they can calculate the moon phase in advance, they do know what 2023's is. So that will be on October 21st in 2023. So that's a really cool little thing just to go out and look at it and, say you observed it on this night. And there's a whole website where they talk about it, and there's educational resources and things like that on the homepage for International Observe the Moon Night. Another thing.
So we have a question in the chat. So, so Jack is wondering, how big is space?
I think that's a good. I think physicists are still arguing about what they think about it. I'm pretty sure the current idea is that it's infinite and doesn't end, so it goes on forever, and it's always getting more. Which that's part of what makes infinite fun, is that it keeps going and there isn't actually a set end.
So big.
Mm-hmm. Very big.
Yes.
So one of the things that if you want to get into some stargazing that you might run into is light pollution. And that's probably, I would say, after it being cloudy, when you can't see anything, light pollution is probably the second damper on any sort of stargazing plans you might have. And so if you're wondering, can I go in my backyard and actually see anything? there is a really cool printable that you can download and print that is of the constellation Orion. And so what it does is stars have something called magnitude, which is how bright a star is. And so, of course, the brighter it is, the easier it is to see, even if the sky is polluted with light. It's easy to see because it's so bright. Think about how you can see our moon, even if you're in like a big city with all the lights, because the moon is so bright. You're able to see it even if there's a lot of light in the night sky. And so what you do is you print this little wheel out and you go outside and you hold it up to the sky once you found Orion, and you try to see how much of Orion you can see. Can you see no stars on its belt? Can you see 2 stars? Can you see 3? Can you see parts of where his like feet and hands are? And you keep going around, and then that will tell you how dark or light your sky is. And the reason why this matters is because stars are all different brightnesses. If you want to see a constellation that has a lot of really dim stars and your sky is really bright, you're not going to be able to see it. And so if you figure this out before you stargaze or the first time you go stargaze, you can then plan for future things and say, oh, this constellation is too dim for me to see where I am because it's too bright. So maybe if I want to see that constellation, I should try to find somewhere to go that's darker. Conversely, maybe you think, oh, I'm not going to see anything in my backyard, and you go out and look and you actually have a pretty dark sky and you just didn't really realize it. And then you can maybe think, oh, I can stargaze right here. I don't have to go anywhere. And so if you're wondering, what can I do to make light pollution better? One of the big things is if you or someone you know is going to get a new outdoor light, you want one that directs the light to the ground. And so you see a little picture on the left shows that you don't want the light to go spread all out and shine upwards. You want it to shine down. And obviously that keeps the light from shining up into the sky and polluting the sky with light. But also, one thing people don't realize with that is it actually makes you safer the more light faces the ground, because think about like that light on the far left in the picture. That light, like half of its light is being wasted to the sky. There's no one walking underneath there or trying to use that space in the dark. But if you have one of those lights like the one on the left, where all the light's shining down on the ground, you're getting all the light from that light fixture is right where you need to be able to see to use it. It's all facing on the ground, so you're able to walk safely around, take your dog out for a walk at night. But, the sky is still nice and dark, but you're able to see, which is good. And then another thing you can do is you can get involved in your community. Some places have adopted ordinances that limit the use of light polluting fixtures. One of the towns here in North Carolina, Boone, North Carolina, they have adopted that as a resolution. If you build new commercial builds, you have to put in fixtures that do not pollute light, which is, like I said, it's good for both like the night sky and for your own safety because you're not wasting that light. If you're looking for some ways to, okay.
Oh, I have another question. So Tyler is wondering, it's a good question. What are the chances of a multiverse?
We must have been watching the new Marvel movies. I don't really know. That's more of like a physics and definitely not my area of expertise. So one of the other things that maybe you might, if you're interested in starting some backyard astronomy on your own, is you might want to look into finding a local astronomy group. So that is a great way to find stargazing events, other astronomy programming. It's also a great way to get to go sometimes and stargaze without having to get any equipment. Because a lot of times the members will bring their own telescopes, things like that they'll let people use during the night, or they'll have them open. They'll have nights where it's open to the public so you can come and look through a telescope. A lot of organizations also right now are doing virtual programs too. And so one of the ways to find this is through something called the Night Sky Network. So that is a NASA program that connects like a local astronomy club with NASA resources. So they have, what they do is they offer the astronomy groups like webinars, content, things like that, that then they can go share with the public. And the Night Sky Network has a searchable map of groups for the whole US, as well as upcoming events. So, if you happen to be traveling somewhere, something like that, outside of where you are, you can also go look for, if you think you're going to be somewhere where you have really good stargazing, you can go on this map to try to find a club or an event near there. And two of the local groups in the Triangle are the Raleigh Astronomy Club and the Chapel Hill Astronomy and Observation Society, if you are local to the Triangle. Those are your two best bets. And I know the Raleigh Astronomy Club is doing at least some presentations this week. If you're interested in more information about them, that would be a good way to get in touch with a member and look into maybe going to an event or joining yourself. Another really good space resource, of course, is us, the Solstice Ambassador Program. So what that is the Solstice Ambassador Program is a network of NASA volunteers. So all of us basically applied to be this part of this volunteer program. And what we do is we conduct public events and programs about space and space science topics. And so what you can do is on the program's website, which that's how the museum found me and all my fellow ambassadors, is they found us on the website and invited us to come to this event. So, but it doesn't have to be a big event. We come speak to a single classroom, a scout group, something like that. And there is on our website, there is a calendar of upcoming events being hosted or attended by ambassadors, and Astronomy Days is on there. But yeah, seriously, talk to us. Oh, I love doing this. It's really fun. And I always love to talk to people. And of course, as you see right now, I'm doing virtual stuff. So, you don't have to be near where I am because the map does show you kind of generally where each ambassador is. It's randomized a little bit for privacy, but, you could always message someone who isn't in your state and see if they'll talk to you virtually if there's someone you think would be interesting to present to your group. And of course, this is also part of what your tax dollars pay for. So it doesn't cost you anything to invite us to an event. And some general stargazing tips for if you want to start stargazing in your backyard. The biggest one I always try to tell people is don't do things in the dark. It's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle of trying to stumble around in your yard in the dark. Unpack things inside your house, test your flashlight, figure out which direction you'll be looking at, figure out which way north is. That's a great thing to do during the day because you can remember it when it's nighttime. If I stand, at the front, looking at my front door, that's north. And I don't have to get my compass out in the dark and try to read it. You also want to be doing things if you're going to want to, lay a blanket on your yard. You probably want to go out during the day and check that, your yard is dry. There's nothing, in your yard. There's no sticks. I know recently, we had the big winter storm and all the weather. There's sticks all over my yard. And I would not want to go out there and lay down a blanket in the dark because I'd probably lay on a branch. The other big things is get a red light flashlight or make your own, which we'll talk about in a minute, which helps preserve your night vision when you're outside. So red light doesn't affect your night vision as much as other colors of light do. So it's recommended that if you're going to stargaze, you have a red flashlight so you have some light that you can see by, but it's not going to affect your night vision. And then, of course, the big thing is, don't be intimidated. Just, try a little bit. You may think, oh, I'm just new. I can't do any of this. There's no way I'm going to be able to see even Orion. This is sad. But you really can see some really cool things with not much effort and not much equipment. And so that's why I included this picture of the famous drawings Galileo did of the moon. He made these with the telescope that is less powerful than some binoculars. So you can pretty much take a pair of binoculars and see what he saw and observe what he observed, which is really cool that, it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to, get into some astronomy. And I think before we start, this would be a good time to pause again for any questions, Carrie?
Yeah, so we had the multiverse question. That would be an interesting concept, isn't it? Right. I don't know that there is any evidence for that right now, but yeah. So I think that Skelly's been doing a great job dropping all the links in the chat, and so folks had some questions about those, and Skelly was able to answer them. So I think we're doing good.
Yeah. Basically, Skelly was dropping links that if I mentioned it on a slide, he put the link in of what where I was talking about. And like I said, most of those things they're printable. They're things like that you can just, pop on your computer and print, download, do whatever with. And that's always kind of fun to have that stuff available. So the next thing we're going to talk about is some basic stargazing. And I have the word up there that says Planosphere, which that sounds a little scary, but we'll see what that is in a second. So I'm going to switch my share screen for a second to this content from a second camera. You should now be seeing my desk, though. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, like I said, the red light flashlight. So I have my big mag light here, and you can use any flashlight when you go outside. Like I said, I like my mag light. It's nice and bright. But you can make your own red light flashlight with just some red cellophane or like plastic and some rubber bands. So all you have to do is just take the red plastic, and this, I have 2 layers because this flashlight's really bright. Some of you may need more than 1 layer to make it dim enough so it doesn't hurt because you basically, you can really tell when you go outside, if you turn the light on and it still seems really bright, then it's too bright and you need more layers of cellophane. But you basically just put it over the top and put a rubber band around it. And when you turn your flashlight on, it is now red.
And I just want to say, this is also a good thing to do when you are at the beach in the summertime. You should never, ever use flashlights that aren't covered in red because of the light pollution for sea turtles. So light pollution affects more than astronomers. It affects wildlife as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you really can do this with almost any flashlight. They do sell, of course, like there are red flashlights that have either red plastic that you can take on and off, or it's like built into the flashlight. It's just always red. One of the things I've used before is red little like party flashlights, because they make these like kids party flashlights that are in like varying colors. And red is always the color that they make. And so you can get red ones that's like you just use the red out of like the multi-pack of color. But you can't do this I've done this before with a camping lantern. You just kind of have to like get creative with wrapping the cellophane around it. But you can do it with like a bigger light. And I will say this is the time of year to purchase your red cellophane because it's Valentine's Day and it's in the store right now. And if not right now, purchase it on February 15th. Because it'll be on sale because Valentine's is over. So that's the time of year to get yourself a whole roll, and you'll be set for forever for making red light flashlights. If you ever want one for doing stuff outside at night. All right. And so the other thing we're going to talk about, which I think Skelly has posted some links to, is using one of these. So this is a planosphere. That's what that big fancy word was. They have various names. They could be called a planosphere. They could be called a star finder or a star wheel. And basically what they do is it's a kind of outside shell. And then there's a window here that's shaped kind of like an oval. And then there's this part in the middle that spins. And so this one I have looks like this. This is one that I bought. And then this is one of the ones that you can make. So I made this one. It was really simple to make. You can take the wheel entirely out, but it is this little holder and then the wheel. And you just stick the wheel inside it. And then you have your little starfinder. So the way you use these is you take the wheel, and if you look on the edges, it has it has time of day. That's what these numbers mean. So this is 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight. And then the inside wheel has dates. And so what you do, all you do is you spin the wheel. So the date and time are what the current date and time is. So I'm going to pretend, though, because it's nighttime, I'm going to pretend it's nighttime tonight. So I'm going to set the wheel for January the 25th at 9 p.m. Spin my wheel around. And they usually, the little dial on the side is in increments of 5. See if I can get this to focus. Maybe. Well, just trust me that it is set on 9 p.m. on January the 25th. And then what you do is you look at it, and they have directions on them. So this is north, this is south, obviously, and then east and west. And what you do is you hold it up in this, like you go outside, hold it up, and it, when you look inside this little circle here, it tells you what constellations you'll be able to see. So I'm going to look and see what you can see right now. You can see Orion this time of year at night. He's right here at the bottom. There's Orion. Some of these, this one has a lot of constellations. As you can see, there are a whole lot. This one is a lot simpler. And the reason why that's just, it's meant to make it easier. It really only has the big constellations that are easy to find and easy to see. So I'm going to set this one to also the right date, time. January 25th, 9 p.m. There we go. Yeah. And so you can see there's Orion again on this one. So there's a lot less shown on this one, but this is a good like beginning because you don't have to be looking for all these really tiny constellations. And most of these, the way they work is if you see, do you see how some stars on this are bigger than others? That is like what we were talking about with that Orion light pollution wheel, is that some stars are brighter than others. And so they usually mark it on these by making the star itself bigger or smaller, depending on how bright it is. And the brighter it is, the bigger it is. So that's a good way if you're looking at this and trying to decide like what I want to look for, is if you look at a constellation that has a bunch of little stars, it's probably going to be hard to see, even if you're somewhere really dark, because it's difficult to, it takes practice to learn to pick out the constellations. It's probably best if you want to start with one of these is to start with something easy like Orion or something that you know. It's also really nice if you maybe can think like one or two constellations you know, like Orion, because if you set the wheel and you say, oh, I should be able to see Orion, and you look outside and you do not see Orion, then you're either looking the wrong direction or you set the wheel incorrectly. And so that's a really good way to like check yourself that you did it correctly, is look for something that's really noticeable. So, but the wheels are really fun. The other thing I really like doing with these is you can, because it's in, you can set any day on the calendar. You can decide like, I want to know what to go look at on Christmas Eve, in February, you can go, look it up and figure out what's going to be up. So that's really fun. And these are really simple way to like, figure out what to do, what to see without too much effort. And this is a really good thing also like to combine with like those, like the NASA resources that were like the What's Up video. See what it says is good to look at this time of year, and then set your wheel and try to find that one thing. So let me.
So while you're setting that up, we had a couple questions.
Then I'm going to switch to my, I'm going to switch my last slide, which is my question slide. So
perfect. So Silky has a question about the color on the flashlight. So why do we use red? Why don't we use green or blue?
So what happens at night is when your vision adjusts to like be able to see better in the dark. One of the things that happens is like your pupils get bigger, which makes your night vision better. And so the red light is just the wavelength of light that is less, it affects you the least, apparently. One thing that's really interesting about the red light is actually one of the things you should not use red light for is if you're out looking for fireflies. They apparently can see red better than other colors, so it will scare them. So if you want to try to catch fireflies, you should actually use a blue flashlight.
Well, that's so interesting.
Which is a very weird, because everyone thinks, oh, nighttime, you should use the red at night. But apparently they can see red. They see blue the least. And so
that's so interesting because, we have the blue ghost fireflies that actually glow blue.
Yeah, they apparently won't notice you if you use blue, but they'll notice you if you use red. So
that is a fun fact.
That is a very weird fun fact.
Yeah. And so also Silky wants to know, how do you learn about the constellations and why are they named? And how do they get their names?
So most of the constellations that we use in Western astronomy is based off of Greek and Roman mythology. So of course, not everywhere in the world uses the same constellation names. That's kind of the standard right now is, Orion is Orion. But in a lot of places around the world, that's not what they call those constellations. That's not what they are, or they use some other mythology. And if it's not a lot of times it's very similar depending on what the constellation looks, because it's based on what it looks like. And so one of the big examples is Cygnus the swan, because it kind of looks like a plus sign. And a lot of cultures have that as a bird, but they might call it something different. But it's still kind of the bird. But yeah, most of the constellations we use that are on these star charts, stuff like that, is Greek and Roman mythology, which is fun. It's a fun side. You get to go look up all the crazy Greek and Roman mythology because there's some interest. They got up some wild things.
It is interesting. And and next year when we have astronomy days in person again, we have a really fun exhibit that's animals of the constellations, because so many of those constellations are animals. And so we will have some live animals, have some specimens, and then we talk about the mythology and the science behind, what constellations actually are and how they're an actual literal map of the night sky. So Jack has a question. Actually, Jan has a question. Is there a website to find local astronomy clubs? And I think Skelly can drop in Raleigh Astronomy Club and Chaos, which is the Chapel Hill Astronomical Observational Society.
Yeah, and that should also be what that Night Sky Network link was for.
Yeah.
That should be the homepage that's the whole US. And then you can search by area.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not local, of course, definitely. Yeah. I always forget that when we're virtual, people could be joining us from anywhere. Mm-hmm. There should be astronomy clubs all over the country and the world. Yeah. Okay, so Jack wants to know, why do planets rotate?
Well, they don't all rotate the same, which is kind of interesting. They don't all rotate the same direction or the same, the tilt is not the same. Because one of the really fun one is Neptune the one that's on its side?
One of them,
Uranus that's tilted on it.
Yeah,
it goes like this. Which one is this way?
Right.
Yeah, one is tilted on its side and it spins kind of sideways.
And I think doesn't Venus, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, in Venus, doesn't Venus, we rotate one direction.
It spins the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes the other way. So
yeah, so that's always really interesting to think about. If you lived on one of those planets, it would be backwards of what you'd have the day come up in the opposite direction. What would happen, if Earth was somewhere like that, California would be the people who wake up first. Right now it's you hit midnight is in England and then it comes across the pond, as we say.
So
it comes across that way. Yeah. But it's
rise in the east, sets in the west. It's opposite.
Yeah, it would rise over there and
feel nauseous.
California would wake up first and Which is kind of fun to think about that it would be really different depending on where.
So Doug's in the chat, and Doug is actually giving a talk on Venus later in the week. So y'all definitely check that out. And then David is asking, where do you think would be the best location in the US to observe the next total solar eclipse? So I think we're looking at Mexico. Isn't that where the best
I'd have to
is?
look. Yeah. So I will say anecdotally, what I did for the last solar eclipse was I looked at the path of totality because I wanted to be in totality so I could see the whole thing. And I kind of looked at where, like, from North Carolina was like generally the closest. And I decided wanted to go to South Carolina. And then what I did was I looked at meteorological data for the locations. And I picked where in South Carolina was the most likely to be clear on the day of the eclipse. Like statistically based on previous years. And that's where I went. So that's how I picked my location. And apparently some people who went towards like the beach in South Carolina got clouded out, which... Like I said, that's what forecasting data had said. You were more likely to get clouded out the closer to the beach you got. And I was like, well, I'm not going there.
It's so funny. Yeah. So there's definitely maps. You can look on the maps and see the path of totality and find a spot that would be a good one.
NASA has a really good, like their eclipse data is really good. That link that probably got dropped in the chat that is for the total lunar eclipse. That page, that is a little scientific. That is NASA's like official like page showing when and where it starts. But they make ones like that for the solar eclipse also, where you can really get down to like the specifics, like to the minute of where it's going to be and when.
Yeah, there's some really cool maps out there. I know we had one that was for the last eclipse. It wasn't actually. It was tactile. It was really cool. Okay, so what Abigail wants to know, what's the difference between a meteor and an asteroid?
So meteors, like in a meteor shower, are pretty much like they're far away. Like part of the solar system is like passing through where the dust is. A lot of meteor showers are based off like they come from like it's us passing like the dust of like a comet tail or something like that. That like the comet went by and it left a bunch of dust in its wake, which you don't realize that's what it's doing. But the tail of the comet is all the little bits falling off of it. And of course, it leaves it behind. It's like, it's like your little 3-year-old walking around with their thing of graham crackers and they're leaving a little trail of crumbs behind themselves as they walk. It's the same kind of thing. They're leaving this little trail behind themselves. And so every time we orbit around and we pass through that dust trail left behind is when you get meteors, like in a meteor shower. That's how come they can know like when they're going to be or where they're going to be. Which that's a really fun thing also to go try to stargaze is a meteor shower. And then of course an asteroid is when like it's something that comes into our orbit and like comes down towards the surface.
Okay. And so when will there be another visible supernova?
We don't know. That's what makes it fun, is we might just have one happen because they don't really ever know when it's going to happen. It might have happened, hundreds of years ago. We just haven't seen the light from it yet. There's some really cool, like medieval artwork of the last time there was a visible supernova, where you'll see this like thing in the sky because it's visible during the day because it's so bright. Where there's like this supernova happening in the background of all these like medieval paintings. And that's how a lot of paintings, they can tell like when it was made because they know when this happened. They're like, hey, this guy painted this painting when this was going on outside.
That's so cool.
Which is cool, yeah. And it's cool to think that like, you could just wake up tomorrow and there be one in the sky. Like that's kind of fun.
That is neat. Mm-hmm. So Jan is wondering, is everything visible with the naked eye in the Milky Way galaxy?
Probably, I would think technically, but some of it's just so dim, you physically can't perceive it, but obviously the light is still coming. But you really can't see very much. But you can see a lot of different parts of the Milky Way. And if you go somewhere where it's dark enough where you can actually see the Milky Way, That's a really cool thing to go do. That you really do need a very dark sky to like actually see the Milky Way for yourself. Some of the star charts actually put it on there so you could see it. So you could tell when it should be like over your area, because it's not really, it might not be visible the whole year. Yeah, here, I'm going to switch my share screen back real quick to the camera, overhead camera, so you can see this. Yeah, so it's kind of, but you can see on mine, there's like this kind of little trail that runs down it. That's the Milky Way. And most of these like commercial ones have the Milky Way printed on them, but because like this one doesn't, but the commercial ones usually do. And you can just, that's a cool thing to like, if you really want to try to see it, is try to figure out when it's visible and go look at it. There's a lot of really good like folklore and mythology in a lot of places around the world about the Milky Way, because it's very visible in the summertime. And so there's a lot of summer festivals, particularly in Asia, that are based around being able to see the Milky Way like visibly in the summer.
Very cool. But let's do one more question, and then we're out of time,
all right.
Unfortunately, so we can't get to all of them. But how did Apollo astronauts use the positions of stars to navigate themselves? And did the Apollo guidance computer have this ability on its own, or did the crew have to spot them on their own?
So I know they taught everybody actually how to navigate by the stars for the mission. So of course, navigating by the stars, some people have done for a really long time. It's a skill that a lot of people used to have, especially if you're a professional like a sailor or something like that, where you're navigating out somewhere where there's no landmark if you're in the ocean, and that's the only way you're going to be able to find where you're going to go. So they did teach everyone how to navigate by the stars in the event that the computer stopped working. And one of the ways they actually did that at Moorhead Planetarium. They had everyone come in the full dome planetarium and practice because it is a very small window that you have out of the Apollo capsule, and you are very limited in how much sky you can see. And so they really had to be able to recognize like, a third or a quarter of like a constellation to be able to know where they were, which is really cool. And I don't know if Moorhead still has the exhibit about that. I know when the Apollo University was out, they had all that stuff out so you could see, like they made this little cardboard contraption that like you would hold over your eyes to block out your vision. So you only saw like what the window of that's the size of the window that you could look out of. And they used that to like test in, like I said, in the full dome planetarium, which is really cool.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much. What a wonderful program. And I'm sorry we were out of time and couldn't get to all the questions, but we do have a really fun program next if you want to jump over to that about high-powered rocketry. So that is also very cool. So I am going to share my screen real quick. And I do want to say thank you to our sponsors, North Carolina Space Grant and Pepsi. And if you, we finally got our t-shirt images. So if y'all want a t-shirt, you can just go to the store, naturalsciences.org. That's our museum store's website, and get a really cool Venus Astronomy Day shirt. And I want to also say thank you to museum members. Without your support, we wouldn't be able to do really cool programs like Astronomy Days. And members, if you're not a member, you should join because you get 10% off the shirts in the store. So we have lots more programs coming up this week. So I hope to see you at one of those, and have a great evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.